The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
People from Lighthouse Youth Services, the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, the mental health system, the juvenile court, other community advocates, other community agencies who are truly interested in these two issues: homeless youth, preventing and intervening in the cycle of human trafficking.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. The issue of homelessness in Cincinnati is serious. Although the image of a homeless person is dominated by older men, the reality is very different. Thousands of families, military veterans, and young people are homeless for a variety of reasons. On June 17th, Lighthouse Youth Services, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, and the Cincinnati Police Department came together and announced a new level of cooperation to confront the issue and prevent its worst implications: drug abuse and human trafficking. To discuss the challenges and the response, I am joined this morning by Bob Mecum, who has served as CEO of Lighthouse Youth Services since 1978. Lighthouse Youth Services is now a statewide organization and a national model for juvenile corrections, runaway, and homeless youth. And Hamilton County Sheriff Jim Neal. Sheriff Neal has served with the department for 30 years and was elected sheriff in November 2012. For both of you, welcome back to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Sheriff, let's begin with you. Why is the sheriff's office involved in this issue? What direct interest does the sheriff have in this?
Well, we've been involved for years, but what's accelerated our involvement was the homeless issue on the county campus. And we came up with a strategic plan of dealing with the homeless.
Let's back that up. The county campus, meaning especially the courthouse and homeless sleeping on the steps, and what to do about that. The county commissioner said, let's get that cleaned up, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
We have county buildings in downtown Cincinnati, and the homeless population felt more secure and comfortable making camp on these campuses, on these properties. But the problems associated with it was that these are public buildings. Thousands of people visit them weekly to conduct business, and with the homeless population that was making residence on this campus with the urine and defecation, the county buildings had to come out very early in the morning and start cleaning the area to prep it for the business day. And so it's been an ongoing problem for years, and we stepped it up, and it was time that we acted to do something about this problem. And so it was the Sheriff's Office and Cincinnati Police Department sitting at the table with human service professionals across the board in dealing with the homeless problem, thus called the Homeless Initiative. And we still meet bi-weekly. And we've been very successful, no arrests, but we've, through triage, we engaged, we determined who was homeless and determined why they're homeless, and then moved towards programming and embed with a program to deal with the particular issues.
Before I move on to Bob, it seems to me that a follow-up to what you've just said is lots of people think law enforcement is just arresting people, applying the law, etc. There's a big overlap between law enforcement and social services. And if you haven't ridden along with a police officer or a sheriff's officer, you may not know that. But there's that big gray area here.
For over 30 years, I've been a referral service as a deputy sheriff, and it's just not Jim Neal being a referral service. It's all deputies and all police officers nationwide, because people just don't know where to go, but they know of us, and they ask us these hard questions: where can I go for help?
Bob, at any one time, how many young people are homeless in let's say, Hamilton County? Let's just start there.
On any given night, there are about 200 young people who are in a state of homelessness. Some of them are in shelter through Lighthouse Youth Services.
Okay.
Some of them are on the streets. An even larger number are young people who are couch surfing, whose families, for whatever reason, are unable to house them, and they're living from friend to friend until they get kicked out.
Technically, are those people who are couch surfing even counted in the official counts? When you hear official counts about homeless, are those even counted?
They are not counted in the HUD official count.
Okay.
However, the U.S. Department of Education also has its count because of the number of kids coming into schools who aren't living at home. So the Department of Education at the federal level and the state level do count kids who are couch surfing and not permanently housed.
You've been with Lighthouse for
38 years.
38 years. Okay. I saw different numbers. Okay, 30. It's a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah.
Do you feel this problem has gotten better? I'm talking about youth homelessness now. Mm-hmm. Gotten better? Gotten worse? Or is there a cyclical, sort of pulsing view of what you see? So what's been your experience over that long period of time?
It has not gotten worse in terms of the raw numbers of kids. What's gotten worse is a lessening sense of hopefulness among young people who become homeless, in the sense that their opportunity to become wage-earning, tax-paying citizens who are stably housed and living the kinds of life that their grandparents always wanted them to seem to be more of a challenge than kids even as recently as 30, 40 years ago.
When one of your officers encounters a young person who is homeless, is on the streets, what are your options? What can that officer do with that person?
With our collaborative with Lighthouse Youth Services, we now have human service professionals that we can reach out to, because we sometimes are first to encounter. Although Lighthouse Youth Services has a team that go out and engage homeless people, including the homeless youth, we also engage the homeless youth. And if it's a homeless youth between the age of 10 and 24, we contact Lighthouse Youth Services.
So is the first thing to contact Lighthouse, or is the first thing to say, can I call your parents?
Well, that's a good question, because a number of the homeless are under the age of 18.
Right.
But still, even with that said, contacting the parents isn't quite enough, because there's a crisis here. We have to get professionals involved that are trained to deal with the individual and to deal with the family as well. So you still need to engage the human service professionals, so that because apparently there's a youth in crisis, and they have the programs and the capability of dealing with that crisis.
You have residential capability, so if the sheriff's deputy or a police officer, can they actually bring somebody to Lighthouse? And you've got a new facility up in Mount Auburn. What's your capability of housing somebody overnight or for a period of time?
Well, first off, it's 24/7, 365.
Okay.
The officers, either the police officers or the deputies, when a peace officer takes a young person into custody, they have three options: take them home, take them to a court detention center, or to take them to a court-designated shelter care facility.
Oh, okay.
Our court has designated the Lighthouse Youth Crisis Center, which works with homeless and runaway kids 18 and under, as a court-designated shelter care facility. So officers, deputies can bring a young person directly to the Youth Crisis Center in the event the young person is afraid to go home, or if the young person's family is not around, or if the young person has just been kicked out of home and there's no place to go.
At Lighthouse, how many young people would you have in residence at any one time? We were talking about how many might be on the streets.
In our shelters, we can provide emergency shelter for about 50 young people.
50 young people, okay. So it's not huge.
On any given night.
On any given night, but okay. And what's the average length of stay once a person shows up at Lighthouse?
For the younger kids, the kids who are 17 and under, our goal is to get them out of shelter as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay.
And for the most part, that involves calling the family, trying to engage the family to come and work with us to develop a plan that assures the family that their young person will come home.
And my guess is
in
most cases, if not almost all, there's some tension in the family, which, you know,
that's
the reason why that's why there's problems.
That's the first option.
You know, one of the things that was said as part of this news conference and all this work is the concern of human trafficking. To what extent do you run into that? And is that, you know, all of a sudden that, I don't want to say all of a sudden, over the past couple of years, that has become more and more of a headline in our consciousness. Is that your experience, that this is a relatively new problem, or has this always been there and we've just become more aware of it? Has it increased? What's your experience?
It's always been there, but call it what you will. It's human trafficking is a new concept that is relatively new in criminal justice, but it is a problem. We discussed it earlier today on another program. Our computer crime investigators coming across youth that are part of that sexual sex trade, and it is a problem. So,
well, two of the elements that help define human trafficking as opposed to prostitution are deception and coercion, in the sense that many young people who begin to engage in prostitution are told by an adult that, hey, I've got a job for you, or hey, you can come over here and get some help. So the element of deception comes into play. Then there's the element of coercion, that no, actually, you can't just spend the night here. In fact, if you don't do this, I'm going to harm you. So when those two elements come into play, along with the actual sale of their bodies, then we have a human trafficking situation.
And how much is that an issue in the Cincinnati area? I mean, is that something that we're hearing about is really off on the coast, or is that something that's real here?
It is real here. Within 48 hours, a homeless youth, there's a high likelihood that they're going to be propositioned by a human trafficker within 48 hours of being in a state of homelessness.
Okay. We're out of time, but Bob, I want to finish with this. You've been at this a long time, 38 years. Are you hopeful, or are you determined?
Oh, I'm totally hopeful.
You're totally hopeful?
Absolutely. We're going to end youth homelessness by 2020. We're going to do that.
Even though you haven't been able to do it in the last 30 years?
We are bound and determined to create partnerships to raise the issue of the need for strategies that can be effective and to help lead those strategies. And we think we're going to do it. And it begins with allies like Sheriff Jim Neal and Chief Blackwell, people who are out on the streets working with homeless youth in ways and in numbers that we could never hope to recreate with a small team of street outreach workers.
Okay.
So yeah, we're confident. We're going to do it.
Very good.
See me in 2020.
Let's try and make it a little bit more frequent than that. I'll be really old by that time. So thank you very much. More importantly, thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
It's really important. Stay tuned. Thinking regionally is challenging but essential. After the break, an opportunity for you to weigh in on what you would like Cincinnati metropolitan region to look like in the future. Welcome back. The Ohio-Kentucky-Indiana Regional Council of Local Governments, OKI, is charged with developing collaborative strategies to improve the quality of life and economic vitality of our region. Traditionally, OKI is focused on transportation planning and approves about $40 million a year in spending. But it is also charged with regional planning for air and water quality and developing tools for local government. Currently, OKI is conducting a visioning project entitled How Do We Grow From Here?
The OKI region is comprised of 3 states, 189 unique jurisdictions, and a landscape that ranges from big cities to rolling farmland. We are an enormously complex region, politically, economically, and socially. Despite our differences, we collectively share both tremendous assets and difficult challenges. OKI is helping to bring together viewpoints and voices from throughout the region to create a comprehensive regional vision in the How Do We Grow From Here plan.
To discuss this vision initiative, I am joined now by Emmy Randall, a senior OKI planner in the land use area, and Travis Miller, the regional planning manager for OKI. Welcome to Newsmakers. There's plans and there's visions and there's all sorts of things out there. How does what you're doing, this How Do We Grow From Here visioning process, how does this relate to what's happening in northern Kentucky as they're rethinking Vision 2015 and how to project that into the future, or Agenda 360 on the north side of the river? How does what you're doing sort of fit with those processes?
Sure. We're certainly working closely with both Agenda 360 and Vision 2015 on our strategic regional policy plan effort, and they've been involved in the conversations that we're having around our plan. OKI also has been involved in those efforts as well, so there's really a lot going on in terms of collaborative effort to create the visions that are going on in the region.
But do you see those as reinforcing each other, as focusing on different parts, different aspects of things? What's the relationships?
I would say a little of both. Certainly reinforcing one another, but when it comes to the objective, our mission at OKI and the objective of the Strategic Regional Policy Plan, as you said, is to serve as a tool, as a guide for the local government. So our angle, if you will, or our perspective is making sure that we're informing, having good data available at the hands of the local decision makers, and really thinking about what tools they need to make the most informed decisions. So our focus is probably more on local government decision makers than the other 2 partners that you mentioned, where they're, I think their mission, their goal is more in line, maybe I would describe with the corporate
broader business community, social, civic agency.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. People hear about visioning and planning all the time. From your point of view, what would you say to somebody who says, what's the practical implications of what you're doing right now 5 or 10 years down the road? What difference is this going to make?
All the difference.
Okay.
Won't be bold. But I do believe that. I think planning is key. It's key to ensuring that when we think about what our one of the questions that we ask through the process is, what do we want our region to be like in the future? As we look out to the year 2030, 2040, what kind of things do we need to be addressing now, building towards, in order to have that region that we're envisioning? So I think in order to get where we need to be, we need to have a good plan. Another advantage to planning that I would tell folks and always try to make sure they have in mind is that planning is it's a way to spread scarce tax dollars. We're working with local governments. Talk about tightening belts.
Can't do everything. No. Have to make some choices.
That's right.
Okay. The second part of the little video, I want to play that because it shows the way that all of us can get involved with this process. Let's take a look at that real quick.
Great.
We need your help to shape our future. Please go to www.howdowegrow.org. On the site, you can select the topics that most interest you, learn about the issues we face, and ideas on how to move forward. Please take some time to explore the site and provide your input to help us as a region address our biggest challenges and continue to move forward toward a better tomorrow.
Emmy, one of the things about this site, sometimes in these planning exercises, there'll be public meetings and people come and, a few people come or whatever number of people come and they go to different sites and they learn things. This website is really rich. There is a tremendous amount of information here about the issues that you're focusing on. But you're also asking people to weigh in on these, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The site was designed, as you said, to present a lot of information so people can really understand these broad regional issues that we're talking about in the plan. And then we also provide some policy recommendations on what local communities can do to have an impact on these issues. As you said, each of the topic areas we provide an orientation video and a question.
Why don't we've got some of the close-ups of the website as you're talking. So
sure.
Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, I'll just kind of describe the website a little bit. On the home page, you'll find an orientation video that talks about the plan generally, and then you can scroll down and you'll see icons that represent our 6 topic areas in the plan. So you can select the topic areas that most interest you and go into one of those topic areas. And then on each of the topic area pages, you'll see an orientation video that provides some background information on the issues related to that topic, and then you're prompted to answer a question where you can weigh in on what's important to you on that topic or theme. As you scroll down, you'll see our strategic regional issues that have been identified in the plan, and these are common issues that many of our communities face. Things like congestion on local roadways. In some of our older communities, there's deteriorating housing stock issues. So these are kind of broad issues. And then if you click on a specific issue, it takes you even deeper into another layer of information.
Well, and that's what I would encourage people to do. As we got into the site, I just found it fascinating because there's just so much data there and there's so much background. It's not just going on and learning about things because you get to weigh in, but it's also not just come in and give us your 5 points here without telling you anything more about that. It's not just sort of quick opinion. But then on the other hand, Travis, let me raise this. What impact will all of that have? If people go on and fill out in different sections, there's different ways, the different modes of questions. Will that really have an impact on the plan that's eventually developed, the vision?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The questions themselves are designed to help us get at what the priorities are. What you'll see when you're answering the questions are maybe all the options are good, all the options are reasonable, make sense, but what we want to get to are what options should we be focused most on when we think about developing, again, tools for local governments to use, whether it's research in a particular topic or putting in their preparing a model that allows, helps them make land use decisions.
Which is Emmy's area.
Right. So understanding what the priorities are, what the public thinks. You mentioned earlier the you know, the old way of doing business with planning, having a public meeting, and you hope for 30 or 40 people to come out.
This is a lot different.
The advantage, you know, of the internet and the technology that we
And
have.
I want to make sure that people know how to get to this, because you want people to do this pretty quickly,
Yes.
right? What's the closing date for
Yes,
this?
we're going to hold the polls open until July 7th. So
Okay, but there's only about 10 more days here. So if you want to learn more about the visioning effort, go to www.howdowegrow.org. Take some time, there's a tremendous amount of data as we've talked about, and then weigh in with OKI and let them know what you think. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women working literally to shape our region for a better future. Have a good week.